Hello, everybody. Welcome to Nothing Exempt. We are now on episode 99. So that means the next episode, probably on Wednesday, is going to be episode 100. And if you have any ideas on what we should do for that, let us know. Otherwise, we're going to plan something all on our own. And right now, I don't have a clue, so I still need to figure that out with Nick. And so the best place to reach out to us to tell us something would be on Twitter at Nothing Exempt or on our subreddit on Nothing Exempt. So, Nick, today the topic is island life, islands we've been to, islands in general. Where do you want to take this conversation off to start?
Well, I just like to start with, given the fact we have a divided Congress and a Democratic presidential nomination that's going to basically just be who can give people the most free stuff, we're going to shift our conversation away from political topics to more things like islands.
For at least the short term.
I mean, I think it might be for the next year and a half, to be honest with you. But the thing is with these island shows, we might have a whole separate podcast feed for people who just only want to listen to islands. So let us know what you think about that. Today we're just going to talk about islands generally, but in future shows we're going to talk about specific islands, fun facts about them, and our experiences if we've been to that island at that particular island.
Yeah, Nick's got this idea of doing a podcast just on different islands around the world and having people that have lived there, or maybe people in government there, or go on travel trips there. It's like an unending, endless list of things that you could do for every different island.
Yeah, there's so many islands out there. I just looked up. There's over 2,000 inhabited islands in the world. There's 2 million islands total over, but most of them are tiny and have nothing on them. But there's enough noteworthy islands that we can talk a lot about islands. And I got this idea because I was talking to a family member who wants to move to a tropical island for retirement. And I'm like, yeah, actually there's a lot of interesting places out there that are islands. And some of my favorite vacations I've ever been to were on islands. And I looked at the list of islands I've been to. It's not as many as I thought.
Well, it's one of those, there's a million of those small islands that may be named that no one's going to think about it as having visited an island. Like when I say, hey, I visited an island, they think Hawaii, Bahamas, Bermuda, something like that. And like you live a quarter mile away from Balboa Island, which is an inhabited man-made island in the middle of a city. Does that count? You want to do a show just on?
Man, we should do a show on that one. There's a lot of history and a lot of interesting things about Balboa Island. I've spent a good portion of my life there.
And just like Balboa, if you just go to where New York City is, there's got to be 24 different islands around there that you could do a show on. Roosevelt Island, Liberty Island. There's a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, the only islands I've actually gone to in New York were Manhattan Island, obviously, and
Long Island.
Oh, and Long Island. Yeah, I guess 3. I forgot Long Island.
There's a lot of islands right there.
Yeah.
So let's talk about why this is an exciting topic. What's cool about living on an island?
Well, the nice thing about an island is that you always have a beach that's close by.
Yeah, I guess so. But you could be in Alaska or the Arctic Circle, and the island isn't that beachy.
Well, and the other thing about islands too is that since they're relatively isolated until modern times. Like you had to get on a boat to get to an island historically. Well, now with planes, it's a lot easier to get to islands. But they kind of were able to build like their own little independent cultures. And even biologically, you had animals evolve to live on particular islands due to the isolation. And it creates these unique type of places that are not as common to find on mainland continents.
Yeah, what I thought was interesting when I went to Fiji, we went to Australia. And by the way, if you ever go to Australia from America, it doesn't cost an extra $1 to stop in Fiji. You just do a layover there. And so that's what I did. I had a layover in Fiji that was like 36 hours long. But anyways, the point of my story is we had a taxi driver who had never seen snow or left the island. And he didn't have the means to afford any kind of ticket to leave. And that's where his family was and everything. So, like, the idea of going on any kind of trip outside of the islands to go see a mountain and snow, it was just, it was not a feasible goal of his. And if you were born on any kind of continent other than out in the middle of the Pacific or out on an island, then you can travel to places and go see things cheaply. Like you could take a bus through Chile and Argentina for cheap. So there's so many more opportunities for you to experience the world versus if you're poor on an island that doesn't have much of an economy for you to ever get off of it. Like you haven't seen anything with that island your whole life. There's people out there who haven't ever seen snow, haven't ever seen a desert. There's whole parts of the world that they've only seen online. Like, what do you think about that, Nick?
I mean, there's people who live in Asia and Africa and even parts of the Americas too, and even in the United States who have never left like a small region of the country. Like I have a relative who's never left Northern California, for example.
Yeah, but it's not a story of means, because even if you just wanted to hitchhike, you could see everything you wanted in America. Yeah. You can be a bum and get on a railroad or hitchhike across the country. So this is more of a matter of I'll never be able to afford to leave.
Well, that's kind of sad.
It is kind of sad, but that's the truth. There's lots of places like that. And if you're on a continent, you can be as poor as possible, like as poor as you could possibly be, as long as you have your health and you can move, like you can cross boundaries, you can figure out ways to do it. But if you're poor in Fiji, it's like, or a bunch of these Pacific islands, your choices are like go to school to become a worker on a ship as your means off the island, or like work to the very top of the economy and make it rich. So if you're not one of those two things, you might be there your whole life.
Yeah, that is something
which
crazy.
Which if I was going to be stuck someplace, being stuck in Fiji wouldn't be so bad. It's a nice place.
But these islands, though, like that's why, since they are so isolated, that's why they have like unique cultures and histories that differ a lot from some of the mainland continents, because they'd have less interaction with the rest of the world, especially in the pre-internet era.
So, Nick, what about the isolationism affecting you as a person? When you've spent time in tropical places, how do you see yourself being able to live there on a long-term basis?
I mean, I've been to tropical and non-tropical islands, and they're usually fun places to relax because you're on an island. Like, just the fact that you're surrounded by water and not connected to the rest of the world, I mean, it gives you this ability just to relax and be like, I can't really deal with what's going on back at home because I'm on an island, even though that doesn't make any logical sense. It's kind of how I emotionally feel when I go to these islands. And however, like after like a week of being on an island, you're like, there's no novelty left. Like you can explore a whole island and be like, where else am I going to go? And you get island fever and restless. Like I don't know how. I have relatives live in Hawaii and they don't leave that often. I don't know how they get, and Oahu's not very big. I don't know how you just don't get antsy and be like, I'm just on this island. I need to go it's all just within an hour's drive everywhere I can go. Otherwise I have to get on a plane.
So Nick, talking about island fever, there's definitely a scale where this doesn't become a problem. Somewhere between Hawaii and Australia.
Australia's not an island.
It is an island.
Oh, it's not. It's a continent.
It's surrounded on all sides by water.
Yeah, but it's by definition not an island. The biggest island is Greenland.
It is a continent and an island as far as I'm concerned. I don't care what your definition is. But anyways, that's totally skipping my point. Somewhere in the size between Hawaii and Australia, there's a size where you can comfortably live there and not get island fever. Do you have any idea how big your island has to be?
I don't know. I mean, Great Britain might be it.
Wow, so like 40 million people?
Yeah, I mean, land wise, it's about um, it's the ninth biggest island. I'm not sure. It's similar to the size of California, maybe a little bit bigger.
So New
But
Zealand's a little bit smaller than Great Britain. Could you live in New Zealand?
um, possibly. I mean, I just the time zone wise, it doesn't really work well with my profession. If it was in the Pacific, and also New Zealand has a lot less people. But yeah, New Zealand, I've never been there, so I don't really know. I've heard a lot of nice things about it.
What are some islands? What are some islands you haven't been to that you wish you could visit? Like I'm looking at a map. Are there Caribbean islands like Cuba? Do you have any interest in going to Cuba?
I really don't want to go to Cuba because I don't really want to support that regime, but at least not yet. It'd be there could be some novelty to it because the fact that a lot of it's stuck in the 50s. But there's a lot of other islands I'd rather go first. Cayman Islands is on the top of my list. Um, I'd also like to go to New Zealand, as you mentioned previously. I've never been there before, and they have a lot of extreme sports and unique scenery, and it's supposed to be a nice place to visit. And
What would be like your number one on your list for non-tropical, like Prince Edward Island?
non-tropical will be New Zealand.
Oh, sorry, guys. That makes sense.
Yeah, but in
Um,
terms of
what about
tropical,
what about Tasmania?
go to Tasmania too. I don't know much about it other than there's Tasmanian devils, but
Tasmania is a sparsely populated piece of land. It's mountainous, and you take a ferry from Melbourne that's like overnight, and that's the only way to get there. I think it's possible to also fly, but most people take the
go
ferry.
there.
I didn't go there. I really wanted to go there when I went to Melbourne, but it was like it's such a investment in time and money for that extra little bit to get someplace that's kind of barren. So we didn't spend it, but I kind of wish I can. I that's one of those bucket list things. I would love to go to Tasmania, even though it might be like completely pointless when you're there, but it might be really fun. I have no idea.
That's how I feel about Zanzibar.
That's how you feel about Zanzibar?
Yeah, it's this island off the coast of Tanzania. It has really nice beaches, apparently. It's always the center of the Afro-Arab slave trade, though it has some history. But I don't know how it's different than any other tropical island in the Indian Ocean.
Yeah. What
But I
other
like
Indian Ocean islands would you like to visit? Sri Lanka, Madagascar.
Seychelles, Mauritius are probably the top two. Zanzibar, of course. Those are probably Indian Ocean islands I'd want to go to. Maldives seems to be just a place where people get Instagram pictures. I'm not that interested.
What about South China Sea, Hainan or Taiwan?
I mean, I lived on an island in the South China Sea.
Yeah, you lived in Singapore.
Yeah, um, that's an island. It's a island, a city, and a country. Uh, it's an interesting place to live, but yeah, I mean, it would be kind of annoying that in order to leave, you have to cross a border and get on a plane or a boat. I guess you can drive across the bridge to go to Johor in Malaysia,
How
but yeah,
how'd you feel in Singapore? Did you get island fever there?
no, because I flew out a lot. It's very cheap to fly to other parts of Asia there. So I could go on a weekend and fly to like Thailand or to Vietnam or to Bali or to some other part of the Asia Pacific region. Most a large portion of Asia is within a 3 to 4 hour flight. Singapore.
Outside of the South China Sea, I'm looking at Jeju Island, which is probably the wrong way to say it, but it's like South Korea's Hawaii is what I've heard it as described as. It sounds like a lot of fun to go visit that island. It's directly south of Korea and directly west of Japan. This,
Well, I mean Japan, like that's another non-tropical island. I mean I've been to Japan before, but I would like to go back to
there's
Japan.
got to be 1,000 islands just in Japan, or maybe not. 500. There's a crazy
Yeah,
amount of islands.
the only one I've been to is the main one, Honshu. But I'd like to go to maybe check out Hokkaido, the northern island, where they one day. Also, like to go to Okinawa in the south. Supposed to be kind of nice. I'd like to go back to Hawaii and then eventually the French Polynesia, such as like Tahiti or something like that.
And what's the name of the island that's in contention between Russia and Japan?
Well, there's the Kuril Islands, which are disputed, and then Salakin, which was
Yeah, the Kuril, Kuril.
yeah, and which used to be split between Russia and Japan until World War II, and then Russia took the whole thing.
Yeah, those would be kind of fun to visit, even though there's like nothing there.
What about the Aleutian Islands?
Yeah, I want to at least go to one. Maybe go hunting on one. Like, there's got to be quite a few of the bigger ones that you could go Kodiak hunting or something on.
There's Kodiak Island, which apparently has like a golf course there. That's one hole, but it has a par of 72. You have to hit it like up a mountain or something.
Man, where did you learn that fact, Nick?
I just read about it somewhere, like weird golf courses.
Yeah, Kodiak Island would be a cool place to go. I heard that eating bear that eat fish isn't as good as like bears that don't eat fish. So I'm not sure about. I think I'd rather go black bear hunting or something that's a little further inland just because of that fact. Because I would love to eat the bear I shoot if I shoot one. What about Cyprus?
Cyprus, that would be an interesting place to go. It's not on the top of the list, but it's on the list. I mean, there's a lot of Mediterranean islands that are interesting.
Would you go to the north or south or visit both?
Let's go to the south. The north is politically contested.
So you could visit both as an American?
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather go to mainland Turkey. Which I already did.
Are there any Aegean Sea islands you want to go to?
I mean, I kind of. I mean, I'm not that interested in going back to Greece, to be honest with you. I went to Greece back in 2009, and it wasn't my favorite trip. So, like, a lot of people like going to places like Kos or Mykonos or Santorini or Rhodes. I mean,
yeah, there's a lot of Mediterranean islands that I would really love to visit. Like, I'd love to go on a cruise where you spent like a couple days on a dozen different islands.
Yeah, my mother just did something like that in the Western Mediterranean for her 60th birthday and had a really good time.
Sounds sweet. Like Sicily, Sardinia, Majorca, those all sound like great places to visit. And then there's the Canary Islands that would be kind of fun to go to, but that's way outside West Africa.
Oh yeah, I'd like to go to the Azores and Madeira, which are the Portuguese islands in the Atlantic Ocean. That's actually where my grandmother's ancestors are from.
Yeah, the Azores would be a sweet trip too. Maybe we can do a nothing exempt Azores trip when we get real big.
Oh yeah, I'd love to do
it. Invite all the listeners out.
Meet all my 5th and 6th cousins. I'm probably related to everybody on that island.
Does that mean everybody on the island's related to each other?
Probably an island as small as Madeira. It's pretty close.
And then as far as like the most middle of nowhere, but kind of a cool place to go would be Bermuda. Like, it is so far out in the middle of the Atlantic.
It's not that far. It's about 1,000 miles off the coast of North Carolina.
Yeah, 1,000 miles. 1,000 miles from anything. I've
heard it's really nice there.
Of course, it's like a rich guy's paradise.
That's definitely on my list. Like, that's ahead of all those Greek islands. And in terms of the Mediterranean, for me, I'm more interested in the Italian islands, in Sardinia and Sicily, and maybe like Capri and Elba.
Are there any like really, really obscure islands that you would like to go to for nothing other than their obscurity?
Like, well, yeah, it depends how much time and money I have. Like, if I'm retired and just traveling, I'd like to go to Tristan da Cunha, which is like the hardest inhabited island to get to in the world.
Out in the middle of Pacific, right?
In the Atlantic, you have to take a shipping boat from South Africa to get there.
Oh, and it's St. Helena.
Oh no, St. Helena at least has an airport
that they're not using. I don't know. Maybe.
Whereas,
No.
whereas there is no airport in Tristan da Cunha. You have to go by boat. And
What's the
then
island in the Pacific that's got like 100 people on it?
Pitcairn,
Pitcairn Island. Yeah.
I have no desire to go there. It's a very treacherous waters. You have to go by boat, and a lot of people die trying to get there historically.
That's a bad sign.
I mean, the majority of them get there, vast majority get there safely, but the fact that there's like a decent probability of me not making it back is kind of not reduced my interest in going. And it's extremely expensive to get there. And once you get there, there's nothing to do.
Yeah, I'm on board with all that. I agree. It's not worth it.
Like,
But
there's,
there
I
are
don't
a
know.
lot of islands in the Pacific that I think would be worth it, like New Caledonia and Vanuatu and Fiji, obviously.
Well, that's the power of YouTube, Brian. With YouTube, you can watch a video of somebody going to a place that is way too annoying for you to go to, like North Korea or Pitcairn Island. After watching a documentaries of people going there and experience it, I'm like, yeah, I don't need to do that.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. I don't need to go to Pitcairn Island either. St. Helena would be cool just to be some like it's got such a story of where Napoleon was sent to, and
Yeah, he died pretty young. He got massive island fever.
yeah. Well, that was before the internet. Island fever was way worse before the internet.
Yeah, he must have been bored out of his mind there.
Now at the age of the internet, you can run a whole company and have lots of people working for you and be very international and not
I
have
wonder what the internet connectivity is like on St. Helena.
Ooh, there's a question. Hey, if you're a listener and you are on St. Helena listening to this, I will give you $10. Just write to us, okay? Maybe send us an email to prove it.
Yeah, a picture of you at St. Helena. But
I
another
bet
island,
podcasting's probably really big on St. Helena.
Easter Island. That's the other obscure Pacific island I'd like to go to.
Yeah,
Moai.
I feel like Easter and Galapagos are the same trip, even though they're not that close.
No, they're completely different.
They're
Galapagos, like
they're
a
not
natural.
they're not that far away. You can make them the same trip.
I don't think you can fly directly to one or the other.
But you could probably both fly to like Quito or Santiago. There's probably like one stop between the two. I don't know which airport, but probably.
Galapagos is a part of Ecuador, and you go to Galapagos mainly for natural history to see like all the weird evolutionarily. Like, yeah, that's a perfect example of an island that, since it was so isolated, had completely different types of animals evolved to live in it, such as the marine iguanas and blue-footed boobies and all Darwin's finches and all that other stuff. That's all Galapagos. So if you're really into natural history, it's probably a great place to go. And then Easter Island is about what happens when on a human scale when people are overly isolated and they use all their resources to build Moai statues, and then the society falls apart.
Why couldn't they just give everybody free healthcare and free food and everything? There wouldn't be any problems.
Well, they decide to use allocate their island's resources to Moai statues.
But why didn't the government just give them free food and then they wouldn't have starved to death?
Ryan, your guess is as good as mine.
See, when it's a huge country, people forget that yeah, you can just have the whole civilization bring everyone down. You can make decisions that ruin everybody's lives until they all die.
Well, yeah. I mean, Easter Island is a great experiment for that. Like, by the time like the European navigators came there, like the place was like completely like devastated.
What about Aruba?
Oh, Aruba! I've heard a lot of good things. I have my family has a timeshare that we can exchange in Aruba. It's a Dutch-speaking island, not very far off from Venezuela. I'd like to go to Aruba one day.
Yeah, I feel like you could hit a lot of these islands in the southern or southeastern Bahamas, or what's Caribbean. Sorry, not Bahamas. Grenada, the Saints, Martinique, all of those. You could see 10 islands in a matter of a couple weeks.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I've heard the nicest one by far is St. Bart's.
What makes it the nicest?
Just it's clean, safe. It's not. It's still part of France, so it has a really good culinary tradition. Um, yeah, it's where a lot of like hedge fund guys go after they're done trading to hide out.
Okay, well, I feel like we've covered a lot of things. Are there islands that you wouldn't want to go to, like Sao Tome, Cape Verde?
The Cotra.
Where's the Cotra?
It's off the coast in the Arabian Sea, off of Yemen.
Oh, I found it. Socotra. Is that populated?
I'm not even sure.
It says Island Nature Sanctuary. It doesn't. It's all green, like it's not populated, but maybe it is.
That's probably an island I wouldn't want to visit just because of where it is.
Qatar. That kind of counts.
Qatar's not an island.
Well, it's kind of an island.
Bahrain is an island.
Bahrain that was a water island. Qatar is a desert island. It's you're not allowed to cross the border probably. So
well, they're having their little dispute with the Saudis right now.
So it's a de facto island. That's the right word for it.
Let's see. Islands I would not want to go to. Out those islands in Canada that are really cold and nothing going on, like Baffin Island.
Oh, I think Prince Edward Island would be a cool place to go in Canada.
Prince Edward Island is much further south. I'm
talking about all the ones that are supposedly islands, but there's always ice there. So is it really an island? Like Prince Edward Island sounds fun.
I'd like to go to Iceland.
Iceland would be sweet.
And play midnight golf and check out the hot springs.
Or
I wouldn't really want to go to any Siberian islands either. That doesn't appeal.
You probably wouldn't want to go to the Faroe Islands.
No.
But I would totally want to go there just to say I went there. I got a little bit of tripster in me for islands.
Yeah, I mean, they're very hard to get to. But yeah, let's see, other islands.
There's this one in the Baltic.
Probably the one I'm not that interested in going to is Papua New Guinea.
Yeah, I agree with you. That doesn't sound like a great place to go either. But I'm about to name one that I would go to that sounds like a bad place too. Gotland Island in the Baltic Sea, in between Sweden and Lithuania. Like, I don't know. I know nothing about it other than I see it on Google Maps right now, and it looks populated.
Isle of Man.
Totally go there. That'd be fun. They have a race every year between horses and men.
I did not know that.
I think it's a marathon, but horses and people are allowed to compete.
I know they have a famous motorcycle race there. The other islands I'm kind of curious about are all the financial tax haven islands.
I wonder why, Nick.
Why? Because I work in the financial services industry.
You're just curious about tax havens.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, like, to me for some reason. Like, these islands that are so small and obscure, yet there's so much money there.
Yeah, like Ireland.
Ireland is kind of different.
There's so many Scottish islands out. Looking at the map, there's 100 of them. Islay, Room. It's rum with a accent over the U. Scotland would be a cool place to go. It's not an island, but it's got a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of islands out there. That means there'll be plenty of islands we're going to talk about. And maybe for show 100, we should talk about Balboa Island. Because probably you and I have spent the most time on that island of our lives of any island.
That may be true. There's also Fashion Island.
Yeah, it's surrounded by a sea of parking lots.
Yeah, that's the name of a mall in Newport Beach, guys. For those of you with no idea.
It's a very nice mall,
It's a very nice island.
but it's not an island.
Yeah.
And then there's also the burger chain Islands.
Mediocre burgers. I'll have to
Yeah.
say they're all right, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Say,
Well,
for the
enough with just listing things off. I think that we could do a show individually on each island, potentially after you visit one, or find somebody who's lived there.
yeah, we'll probably start with islands that Brian and I have actually been to, and then work our way from there.
Well, or we could go alphabetically, Nick. Well, we can do whatever we want. We can design an order and just go that way. And just like you never have to. We don't have to go in any order, just so that maybe nobody has any idea what we're gonna do next. That'd be kind of fun. Like if it's alphabetical, people are gonna be like, "Oh, I'm gonna skip B's and wait till you get to Cayman and whatever." So,
Yeah. I think we'll start with Balboa Island.
okay, you've made that executive decision. We're gonna start with Balboa Island.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then after that, I don't know, maybe Catalina or I don't or the Cayman Islands or the UK or Manhattan. There's a Montreal. There's a lot of islands that could potentially be at next after Balboa.
Yeah, we could turn into stories. Like we could really delve into the stories behind the islands and the people and find like the most entertaining stories to come out of that island and portray it like a storytelling podcast. Or we could just do it like we're reading Wikipedia. It's really all up to us.
Well, I think it's going to be a mix of fun facts and our experiences there and what we associate with that island.
Yeah. Nick, do you want to be the one that sets up that podcast and have it separate from Nothing Exempt, or should we put it in part of the show?
Well, I think it would be in both the Nothing Exempt feed, and maybe we create a separate feed for just the island shows, but it's going to still be part of the Nothing Exempt.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. This has been a really fun episode 99. We'll never have another one like this, and that's good or bad. I don't know. But Merry Christmas. Now we can officially start saying that for the season. We can say that every episode till the 25th.
So when's a good time to listen to Christmas music? Is now the time, or do you have to wait till December 1st?
No, you can start immediately on like the day after Thanksgiving, Nick. Thanksgiving to Christmas. That's when you're allowed to have Christmas music and Christmas lights on your house and have a Christmas tree up. Those are the rules.
Okay, I need to get started with Christmas decorations then.
Yeah, it's a great day to do it. Okay, everybody, thank you for listening. We appreciate your comments and support. If you want to reach out to us on Nothing Exempt on Twitter or on Reddit, we will reach out. We will reach back. We will follow up. We will answer you. Whatever. I'm stumbling over my words. Please forgive me. Is there anything you want to say before we go, Nick?
Yeah, you could also reviews on iTunes. The better reviews on iTunes, the better quality guests and content we'll have on the show. And also, I think the name for the Islands podcasts will be called Islands by Nothing Exempt.
Okay, I want some other feedback besides Nick's ideas before we do it. So,
send your feedback for suggested islands, or if you think we're onto something, or we're just crazy with this whole island thing.
Oh, we can be crazy anyways. Okay.